Thanks for joining us for our Going Deeper conversation today. Good on you for joining in and wanting to scratch below the surface of another really important message. So today was the fourth in our Deep and Wide series, and a bit of a transition today. So we've been going deep, and then today we're talking about going wide. And introducing this topic of evangelism. So we've been going deep and understanding, well, what is this hope that we have? But then now how do we actually go wide and testify to that hope? And it can make us a bit nervous, can't it?
It can, it does, yeah.
Why do you think it does?
I think there's a couple of things. I think we can see somebody evangelise well and just think, well, we can't do that. We don't have the words, or we don't have the understanding or the intellect maybe to explain things. But I think also in the church there's a sense of, particularly when we talk around spiritual gifts and the gift of evangelism, I think there's quite often a pulling back because either we're not gifted that way, so we think, well, someone else can do that, I don't have to. But generally I think that there's just a nervousness in expressing what it is, because we haven't actually sat down and really confirmed for ourselves, what is that hope that I have? How would I articulate that? And I love what Kev shared at the end of the message, where he talked about it. He just wants to keep it simple. That there was two questions. That question around, well, who do I say Jesus is? And then do I allow Jesus as the Son of God to actually inform me on who I am? And I live from that place. So I think there's a tendency to want to over-complicate evangelism, and I think that's why we get nervous.
And we think that you have to be a theologian or a preacher, or and you know, there's almost that sense that we're defending the gospel or defending the church or something.
And God doesn't need us to defend him.
No.
That's the funny thing. He does not need us to stick up for him. But you're right, I referenced Ravi Zacharias in the message, and I look at someone like that, and exactly that, I go, he's a very clever theologian and very articulate. I would love to be able to speak and think like him, but I can't and I don't. So I need to just be able to tell my story, not try to tell my story the way he does it, or anyone else for that matter.
I really appreciate that in introducing the whole topic of evangelism and going wide, you did that out of those couple of verses in 1 Peter, where it's just saying be ready to give an account or to answer for your hope. For the hope that you have. Hope that you have.
Not the hope someone else holds. So that personalises it, but I think it simplifies it, because I only have to share my story, my engagement with God, the difference following Jesus has made in my life, and you can't argue that. You can't argue my story. You can't hear my story and then tell me it's wrong, because it's my story.
It's your story.
And it's your story. So that's the beauty of this. I think that there's a nervousness and fear of it, but when we understand what it is we're called to do, it's actually quite simple, because you're just sharing your story, your hope.
And it's doable. And I think too, and the way that we're wanting to construct this series, interesting that we did our both and series at the start of the year, and this is another one, deep and wide. There is no deep without wide. And so, you know, we kind of don't have a get out of jail free card and excused from the responsibility of sharing the hope that we have. And I think, you know, even the points that you made about just the reality of, you know, this 21st century Australian society, things are not going well. There's something busted at the worldview level. And I think you were talking about, there were the four components about the origin, like where did I come from, meaning, morality and destiny. And even thinking about those questions about Jesus, who do I say Jesus is, who does he say I am, there is a comprehensive answer to those four things. origin, meaning, morality and destiny in the person of Jesus.
Absolutely, and they're coherent. They actually,
right,
when you get all those answers together for those four big questions, they all make sense in and with one another. That's the beauty of it.
And it's almost like, how dare we not share that?
Yeah.
You know, when a world is crying out for meaning and their answers aren't working, and meanwhile we know that this comprehensive and coherent answer exists within the person of Jesus, we really should be ready to give an answer.
Yeah, and there's a motivation issue there, because if our motivation is I should be doing this, as though this is a box to tick or something that's expected of me because I have this faith, we often have a resistance to that. But if we know that a life with Jesus, the reality that brings is true and real and good and it works, why wouldn't we want to share that?
Yeah.
So the motivation is not I need to evangelise because I should do it as a Christian. It's more, hey, I've realised this works. It makes a difference in my life. I want it to make a difference in your life. We do that in the natural. We share with people very readily about a book or a movie or a TV show or a coffee shop. We experience it and we want others to experience it. And all of a sudden, with faith, we pull right back on that.
Meanwhile, we've got this wonderful recommendation about your identity and your destiny and the meaning of the cosmos.
Yeah, that's right. Like all the big things.
Yeah, that's right.
And as I think you said earlier, the idea of when we try to carry the weight of defining all those things for ourselves, we're not actually meant to do that.
No.
So we are actually caring for and loving another person when we share with them the reality and truth of Jesus and what a life with him can look like.
I love how you brought that all the way back to the garden in eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That at that moment, that sin was a grasping to define for ourselves, you know, that ultimate meaning and ultimate reality, and we're still trying to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, and trying to do it more so than ever. I think in our postmodern society, I think it's nearly expected that we are creating our own truths, our own realities, and we're seeing that right through all spheres of society, and the outworking of that, and we're nearly seen as being archaic as Christians to believe this ancient thing.
It's all, and I think you actually said that when we share our faith, it's perceived as diminishing the worldview of others, which is ironic because there's no way in the world that their worldview could be as enormous as the worldview that we desire to share.
And that's that. I mentioned we've turned inward and we've actually shrunken our whole world and existence because it's all about ourselves. If you turn that outward and we become part of a story bigger than us, you know, God's story that he invites us into, that's not diminished at all. That is actually...
That's the biggest story of all.
Massive, biggest story.
A thought that I was just struck with as we were speaking, like I remember, I think, you know, as a young Christian in my early 20s, the idea of evangelism was particularly confronting and scary because it was share the gospel and get to the point where you can lead somebody else in the sinner's prayer, which is a pretty confronting...
It's about conversions.
It's about conversions, whereas this example in Peter is just be prepared to give an answer of the hope that you have. Yeah,
and the gentleness and respect, that's the bit I love about it.
I think that's it.
The gentleness, it's God's power working in us that he's controlling and respecting the other person's dignity and humanity. It's not up to me to convince anyone of anything. I share my story and allow the Holy Spirit to go at work, spirit to spirit in the other person. That's his job, not mine. So it takes the pressure off.
Totally. How dare
I don't have to win converts. That's not what I'm called to do. I'm just called to live my life with God through Jesus and share with others what that's about and let God do what he needs to do.
That's right. I think that's the ideal spot to round out our conversation. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for a great message. I'm going to listen to this one twice, absolutely. So bless you, have a fantastic week and look forward to seeing you soon.
See ya.